Artemis II is often described as a space milestone, the first crewed mission around the moon in more than 50 years, a 10-day journey on NASA's Space Launch System rocket and Orion spacecraft. But the bigger story is not only space exploration, it's economic power, because Artemis is not just a mission. It's a signal that large-scale industrial capability is being rebuilt on purpose. By the time you're watching this, the launch may have happened, or it may have shifted due to weather or technical timing. Either way, the economic implications are the same. Artemis is a long-cycle program, and long-cycle programs shape industries. They shape supply chains, they shape budgets, and they shape where high-skill capacity concentrates. To understand why Artemis matters, you have to stop thinking like a spectator and start thinking like an investor or a policymaker. Because in the modern economy, the most important technologies don't scale purely through consumer demand. They scale through infrastructure, and infrastructure scales through capital and procurement. That's what Artemis represents. The first layer is the industrial base. A mission like Artemis II is not one rocket. It's a network of manufacturing, quality systems, software, avionics, propulsion, testing, materials, and logistics. It creates durable demand for specialized suppliers. It trains a workforce that can build extreme reliability systems, and it forces long-term coordination across companies and government. That coordination is not cheap, but it creates something rare in modern markets, capability that is hard to replicate quickly. That's why national programs matter. They create depth, they create redundancies, they create a pipeline of talent and production capacity that can later spill into other sectors. The second layer is procurement as strategy. Industrial policy doesn't only mean subsidies. It also means guaranteed demand. When governments commit to multi-year programs, they de-risk parts of the supply chain. They pull private capital into factories, tooling, and specialized engineering. And they create stable employment for high-skilled labor. This is one of the most overlooked macro forces. Procurement creates ecosystems. Ecosystems create technological advantage. And technological advantage creates leverage. Artemis is a clear example of this. NASA frames it as exploration, science, and preparation for long-term lunar activity. But economically, it's also about building the capability to operate beyond low Earth orbit again, and sustaining it. The third layer is the technology spillover effect. When a system is designed to keep humans alive for days in deep space, you push reliability, miniaturization, energy management, communications, automation, and monitoring. Some of that stays inside aerospace. But some of it spills outward into advanced manufacturing, robotics, materials, and high reliability engineering. Not every program produces a wave of consumer products, but the spillovers show up in industrial capability and in the firms that learn how to build the hardest things. This is one reason space programs can behave like industrial accelerators. They force high standards, they create specialized expertise, and they compress decades of engineering learning into a few years of intense iteration. Now zoom out to the geopolitical layer. Artemis is also a strategic capability signal. The ability to operate reliably in cislunar space, the Earth-Moon region, is not purely symbolic. It's a demonstration of systems integration at scale, launch capability, deep space navigation, communications, crew life support, recovery systems. These are not optional extras. They are foundational components of national power in high-technology domains. And here's why this matters economically. When countries invest in strategic capability, they are also investing in industrial independence. They are reducing dependency on external suppliers. They are building domestic competence in critical systems. They are shaping which companies become default suppliers for the next generation of infrastructure. This is similar to semiconductors. It's similar to energy security. It's similar to AI infrastructure. The most valuable capabilities are the ones that sit at the base of multiple systems. Space capability increasingly sits in that category. Now you might ask, does this matter for markets? Yes, but not as a day-to-day stock move. It matters as a long-cycle capital allocation story. Aerospace and industrial systems behave differently than consumer tech. They require longer timelines. They require larger upfront costs. They create fewer fast winners. But when they work, they create deep moats. And those moats are often reinforced by government relationships, certification requirements, and procurement cycles. That's why Artemis is best understood as part of a bigger trend, the return of long-cycle national investment. A shift away from pure short-term efficiency and toward resilience, strategic industry, and capability building. The same logic showing up in chip manufacturing, energy infrastructure, and industrial policy is showing up in space again. So what should you take away from Artemis II? 1. Space is becoming an industrial base story again, not just a science story. 2. Government procurement is still one of the most powerful forces in building long-term capability. 3. Strategic technology is increasingly tied to geopolitical competition. And 4. The next decade will likely reward the ecosystems that can build complex systems reliably, because reliability is becoming scarce. Artemis is not just about going to the moon, it's about rebuilding the capability to stay in the game. And in the modern economy, capability is power.